I'm Effie Parks. Welcome to Once Upon a Gene, the podcast. This is a place I created for us to connect and share the stories of our not-so-typical lives. Raising kids who are born with rare genetic syndromes and other types of disabilities can feel pretty isolating. What I know for sure is that when we can hear the triumphs and challenges from others who get it, we can find a lot more laughter, a lot more hope, and feel a lot less alone. I believe there are some magical healing powers that can happen for all of us through sharing our stories, and I'll take all the help I can get.
Once Upon a Gene is proud to be part of Bloodstream Media. Living in a family affected by rare and chronic illness can be isolating, and sometimes the best medicine is connecting to the voices of people who share your experience. This is why Bloodstream Media produces podcasts, blogs, and other forms of content for patients, families, and clinicians impacted by rare and chronic diseases. Visit bloodstreammedia.com to learn more.
Hello, and welcome to Once Upon a Gene, the extra special podcast that helps you find your people, empowers you to show up, advocate, and take care. If this podcast has helped you in any way, I'd love to ask you a quick favor. Could you please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts? Your support helps spread the word and allows us to reach more people who need to hear these stories. And don't forget to share this next episode that I'm about to share with you. It is such a valuable resource for parents navigating the journey of raising these special kiddos. And we want to make sure it reaches as many people as possible. And I am so pumped to introduce you to these girls today. They're the brilliant minds behind Lemon Cake. These two are all about taking life's challenges and finding joy in the journey without sugarcoating. And it's just real talk and it's powerful positivity. And as parents of medical kids, they know what it's like to live with the tough, and they have chosen to build a community where joy isn't just a side effect, it's maybe the main event. So we are going to dive into their cake pop community where connection and support are at the forefront. And they also have an amazing new ebook available called Finding Joy in the Journey. So I hope you love them as much as I do. They really made me smile so long after I spoke to them. And all the links for their socials and a discount for their book are in the show notes. So please welcome Amber and Chelsea. So excited to have you both here today.
Thanks for having us. We're excited too.
Yeah. Hi, Effie. Thank you so much.
Yes, my pleasure. So I guess just to kick things off, could you both share with us a little bit about your origin story? How did Lemon Cake come to be and what brought you two together?
Yeah, I can jump in on this one because it's really fun. Chelsea and I are both mamas to medically complex kids, and my son Kai was born almost 8 years ago, and I started an indoor adaptive children's play gym called Better Together Playnasium here in Columbus, Ohio, where we both live. And Chelsea came in with her daughter, and I can't remember exactly how it went down, but I know that her daughter had kind of a rough time leaving the play space and was having a little bit of a meltdown. And I'm sure we'll get more into it, but she's on the spectrum. And I was like, listen, I understand this is a safe space. And she and I got to talking more about, we both have kids with medical complexities and disabilities, and we immediately connected. And then we grew our friendship and decided to randomly one night go live on Instagram together just because we were like, wow, people ask us all these questions and we should just get together and answer some of them. And I don't know, Chelsea, if you want to expand a little more than how it became Lemon Cake?
Yeah. Yeah. And what's crazy is that we actually didn't even know each other that well. And I was so unsure if Amber would even say yes when I asked her if she would want to do this. And she not only said yes, she's like, you want to do it tomorrow? I'll come to your house. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to be real friends. And we got really excited about this. And we just, I don't even know how it exactly started, but we said, one of us said something like, well, when life hands you lemons, make lemon cake. Because lemonade's just not going to cut it. And in this world, in our community, we need to throw a party every now and then. So bring on the cake. And that's kind of how the name Lemon Cake started. It was kind of towards the beginning of all of this, but it started with an Instagram live that was somewhat accidental, and it's turned into a full-blown community. We just wrote our first ebook and launched our website We've got some speaking gigs coming up, and we're going to be doing some community get-togethers with some local disability mamas. So it's just crazy that 2 years ago, we hardly knew each other on like a very deep level at all. I would say we were friends, but it was very like occasional. And now we're running this business together, and our kids are growing up together, and it's just been pretty amazing and very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And I really have to say that I resonate a lot with the heart of your content. It's something that I think about all the time, how we don't always have to swim in this pool of trauma to bond, and that there's incredible potential in using our experiences as a force for good and to find positive amidst all of this chaos and sadness. And it always kind of feels like we're trying to walk this fine line of between toxic negativity and toxic positivity, which I know you brought up the other day, and it's tough to get it right. But I think you both do a really beautiful job in finding that balance. Yeah, I guess, what are your thoughts on navigating that fine line?
Well, I think that it takes years to navigate it. I think a lot of us, when we're thrown into something like this initially, you want to figure it out really fast. And one of the first things, and we talk about this often, is having grace with yourself no matter where you're at, because different things are going to happen. But I would say when we first had children with diagnoses, they were very young, and you do want to fix everything right away, or you want to be super positive, or maybe you are wallowing in the self-pity of it or the pity for your child. And it does take years to process what is even happening and figure out what that balance even looks like. So Kai's almost 8, Kinnan's almost 9. So we're nearly a decade into this. And I think now we're wrapping our heads around this.
Right. It's definitely not an easy dance, because you almost go back and forth on the daily in the beginning. I feel like one day I would be in that total all-consuming sadness and woe is us and why us. And then the next day I'd be like, nope, we're going to pull our bootstraps up. We're going to do all the research, and we're going to do everything we possibly can to make the best for us, but even more specifically for our son, Kai, because he doesn't deserve that. He deserves the world just like any of our other children. So it is hard. I think you're just kind of dancing back and forth until you, just like anything, the repetition and the practice of shifting that mindset and saying we can still find joy in this, and it doesn't always have to be so sad and heavy. You get easier at over time.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, the timeline for everyone is different, but really honoring that is so important. Do you both have sort of like a moment or a story that kind of you revisit often that was maybe sort of that catalyst, maybe that snapback that really let you understand that you've seen this direction and you've seen this direction and you choose which way you're going? I don't know if that makes sense. Do you have like a moment that really helped lift off your whole lemon cake experience?
Right. I would say for us, it was when Kai really started to make some progress. And I don't mean that in the way of like, you know, we're hitting all these milestones and we get so caught up on that when they're younger. But I started to see we're not just sitting and plateaued. Like he was probably around 3.5. We were getting some better seizure control, and you know, he battles epilepsy. I know we haven't shared a ton about what his specific diagnoses are, but I started seeing more laughter. He was starting to sit independently. And yes, that was so far off from the typical, quote unquote, timeline of milestones these kids should be hitting. But I started seeing him experiencing so much joy in life. So there was not like one specific moment. I think it was around that age 3 where it was like, wow, we were having more small wins than we had ever had. And that added up to us feeling so much more hope and a lot more joy, because it was like, well, that's okay. He may not be running around with his typical 3-year-old peers, but for him, he has moved miles. So that's all that mattered. And that was kind of like the big shift in my mindset. And we talk a lot about meeting small milestones and inch stones, as we say. And I think that made all the difference in the world for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say for me, it's almost hard to put my finger on exactly where things changed, but I know that they happened from a rock bottom point in my life. Kinnan was diagnosed with a global developmental delay and autism when she was 4 during COVID over Zoom. And it was a very confusing time for me. It was in the midst of everything being shut down. And then all of a sudden we're handed, about 150 pages on what to do. And by the way, go find therapy, and none exists right now. And prior to that, we spent the first year of her life in and out of the hospital trying to get an initial diagnosis because we knew something else was going on. And when she was a year old, we almost lost her. She was diagnosed with a glucose disorder that had gone undetected despite all the testing that we had been doing for 9 months, 10 months. So she was diagnosed with glycogen storage disease type 1A. And she's still on a feeding tube. We manage her blood sugar every couple of hours with cornstarch and glucose checks. And so I was already, I think the first year of life was, I don't know how else to put it other than, and I know a lot of listeners would understand this, you feel like a zombie. You're just walking around trying to survive. And you're not sleeping properly. You're not taking care of yourself. And there were moments during all of that phase of her life where I was just making decisions to try to be positive. But what's really crazy is that it was after she was diagnosed with autism around age 4.5, that I had a rock bottom moment, did not know if I wanted to be here anymore. It was a mess. And I remember sitting on the floor outside my garage and just saying, God, can't. You got to do this. I can't do it anymore. And it was the silliest, shortest prayer of my life. Been raised a Christian my whole life. And I felt like it was supposed to be so much more and so much bigger, but my heart had given up at that point. And I took everything I had and just asked for help. And I went to sleep that night, and the next morning woke up with a new resolve for life. And it's unexplainable outside of that's what I prayed, and woke up different the next day. And when I did, that's when the outlook changed for us. And then it was a slow progression of just looking at things differently with a little bit more hope, even though everything was really, really hard at that time. We weren't seeing progress. We were going backwards. But I had a choice to make. If I'm going to do this, I have to be there present for her and try to find the good in it.
Oh my gosh. I think everyone listening has had that moment on the floor, in the garage, in the shower, wherever you were at the time. I really love that. And I love sort of the seeing, right? Like, you can't go back. Also know there has to be something more. And it's really difficult to see that and to step into it and to train yourself in the beginning to really have that shift. And it takes a lot of guts, and it takes a lot of bandwidth, It really does. It's like a muscle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I know that almost all of us you're lucky to have some people in person now and everything you've created in Ohio. But I know most of us find our communities on the internet, of course, because we can't leave our house most of the time. And everyone is spread out in this world of disability and medical complexities. So can you talk a little bit about how social media was such a part of this journey for you both?
Yeah, Amber, you want to take that over?
Sure.
It is, you might not know this, but that is how I found your planesium, was because of Instagram.
See, there you go. So that was actually the beginning.
Yes.
I feel like it's played a huge role, and Chelsea and I have actually done we started in the beginning with some YouTube episodes. We're talking about maybe bringing those back. We haven't done video content in a while besides Instagram, but we did talk about this because there can be so much with the social media world that's just very challenging as well. We obviously are going to play that comparison game, whether it's with friends who have kids who aren't diagnosed, whether it's with friends who have kids who have the exact diagnosis, but they're still so different. And you want to not fall into that pattern of comparison, obviously. But I think there is so much good from it as well. I have been so lucky to have connected with, there's probably a handful of moms that I found just from using the hashtag hydrocephalus, or child with hydrocephalus, and then also the epilepsy warrior hashtag. And it was a couple of moms that all happened to be mostly in California, and I'm all the way in Ohio. But we started just a group conversation on Instagram that was our boys with epilepsy is what we named it. And Kai was probably one or two, and we would message daily with different questions about medications that they were trying, that we were failing, different diets, all kinds of things, and just also about how we were feeling. And it was the first time that I felt like there was someone I had never met in person, but that knew me better than most of the people that were walking daily life with me here in person. So I do think that finding your people on social media is just huge. It fills this void that you almost didn't even know you had and that needed to be filled until you find it. So I know Effie and we finally got to meet in person for the first time, which is so exciting. I'm going on the Electric Love Retreat this past month, and I found that a couple of years ago, and now getting to take our friendships from the social media world into real life is just something that is really hard to describe until you experience it, because you're like, I know you. I know your kid. I know so much. And then you see them in person and you hug them as if you've known them their entire life, but you've actually never met in person. And it is just like, it brings that joy piece that you've been missing, right? That are so hopeful for. And you're like, wow, you actually make some of your best friends in that way. And I just think there is so much power in it.
Yeah, I think if anybody is listening and they're like, well, how do I find my people on social media? If you are in tune with the social media world and algorithms, you might be hearing people say hashtags are dead. They're not in our community, that's for sure, because we're using it to find who else has a child with this diagnosis or is experiencing this or that. And so I have also found the same as Amber. We've found a great community, and like Amber said, taken it out of the group chat and into real life, and have met some amazing families. Now my daughter has friends that have the same diagnosis as her, and they've been able to meet in person, and they aren't close to us. So we would not have found them through the typical groups that the hospital recommended us to be a part of, or, you know, local Facebook things. Like, the people we met are at a distance, because when you're dealing with rare disease, that's probably going to be the case many times. So we love recommending using the hashtags and searching local Facebook groups and just really utilizing social media, doing your best to avoid the comparison game, of course, but using social media to find the people that you can really relate to. Because even Amber and I, like, we work together, but our kids have very different diagnoses. So there's stuff I'm never going to understand, and vice versa.
Yes, hard understanding. Social media is a miracle, and it brings us our people that we could not live without and we never would have met otherwise. And such an important point on the hashtags. It's been like, no, stop it. Stop saying they don't matter, because that's exactly how we find each other. That's exactly how we get put into the right algorithms to have these types of videos that now are abundant to pop up. Social media is just a magical device for us. And yeah, obviously, like, you really need to tailor your content and what you're feeding yourself, because there's a lot of bad stuff on there too. And there's a lot of stuff that'll just kind of keep you down in your hole. So you have to be conscious of it. But there are so many bright lights and so much wonderful, rich, lifelong relationships that you can build off of the internet. I love it.
Absolutely. And I think it's really cool too, because once you've done that for a while, then the algorithm does bring that up back. And I'm like, I find so many more people now that I never knew existed, or even resources. And I'm like, wow, okay, what is this bike that they're using? And then you go down this other path. So it kind of just fuels the fire, but in a good way.
Totally. So let's talk about finding some of this joy in the journey. I mean, obviously we know, especially in the beginning, there's just so much weight, right? With all of the grief and the medical appointments and all of the challenges that come having our kids. So, and also revisits later, you know, it always kind of goes like this depending on times in our life and milestones. So how do you both find this joy amidst all of the struggle that we're also dealing with? And what are some of like your go-to strategies for staying grounded?
That's a really great question. You want me to start? So I think one of the first things in finding joy in the journey is recognizing that your joy is going to look different than a lot of your friends, especially friends with typical kids. And if you have expectations like they have in their life, you're going to be playing the comparison game for the rest of your life. That was something I really struggled with at the beginning, because I didn't know anybody else who had a child with any sort of disability that was close to me. And so I would expect my life to have the same sort of outlook or wins that I saw other friends having, or seeing other friends being able to go on dates with their husband, or just have a family member come over and watch the kids. And that's just never been the case for us. But if I let those things really get to me and hurt me, then I feel like I would never be able to find out what does joy look like in this journey. So it's kind of like AA. You got to admit what's going on, find the reality, and then move on in your space. And your space can be incredibly beautiful. Oh, it's that poem, Amber. You have a tattoo for it. The Holland poem. Yes. Yes. You're planning a trip to Italy. You think your life's going to be this beautiful trip to Italy, and you end up in Holland and you're like, this is not what I expected, but it's still beautiful. It's just different. And so finding joy in the journey for us looks like recognizing what is our path going to look like? How do we focus on the wins that are going to work for us? And they might look smaller. They might look a lot farther spaced out. But if my child is not doing something that other kids are doing, that is okay. What can she do? And then where can we go from there? And how do I embrace that and celebrate it and make a big deal of it for her and for our situation? And from there, I think it also looks like figuring out how to take care of yourself. So many times, moms, we just put ourselves on the back burner no matter what's going on in your life or what type of child you have. But if you have a kid with disabilities, a lot of times we just bear the weight of caregiver and mom with no balance or break. And I know I did that for years, and we have worked very hard just maybe taking one thing off of our plate and adding in something that adds a little bit more joy. So instead of saying yes to some commitments that weren't really necessary, I just felt like I had to do, maybe I can say no to those and say yes to a nap, or say no to those and say yes to going for a walk. I'm big on grounding and setting your circadian rhythm and like doing all the hippie crunchy things. And that has brought me so much joy. And they're so little and they take minutes. But that's the kind of stuff that I had to actually make time for, and then also understand that it's okay for me to do that. I can have 5 minutes, and I need it so that I can focus on the other things. I'm sure every single mother can relate to that.
Absolutely. And I would say my thing that I really focus on that continues to help me find the joy in it is my son. I mean, Kai simply is such a happy kid. And I would look at him and say, how can I be so sad when he's having the time of his life? He doesn't know any different, and he has this drum toy. If anybody knows Kai, they knows he has this drum, and he's obsessed with it. And of course, it's like this old Fisher-Price toy that does not exist anymore. So we've gotten on Facebook Marketplace and all these other Goodwills, and we've accumulated 20 of these drums that sit in my basement. So when one dies, we've got backup because I know I can't just go buy it. But I would literally look at him and say, he's having so much time with just this little drum. So much time, so much fun, and the time of his life. And then how could I sit here and be so sad about it? If that simple little thing can bring him so much joy, I can find those simple things that can bring me joy too. And like Chelsea said, it is definitely different for everyone. She's starting to teach me her crunchy ways. I was definitely never like that. And it is fun. But I mean, I'm such a people person. So if it was, I asked my husband, I need this Saturday morning where I need to go get coffee with my girlfriends and I need to sit for 2 hours and chat with them about probably nothing of any sustenance, but I need to do that. And that brings me so much joy. But that 2 hours meant so much for me. So I think it is finding what that is for you that's going to fill your cup and actually taking the time to do it, which I know is so hard. And we all say you just got to do it. And trust me, I know we've got school pickups and drop-offs, and we've got the therapies, and we've got the doctor's appointments and the hospitalizations. And if you have multiple kids, like we both have 3-year-old siblings to our diagnosed children, you've got all of their stuff and they are wreaking havoc in your household. I know it's easier said than done, but I think that it's simpler than what we make it be in our minds. We make it seem like it's almost impossible, and it's truly not.
Oh my God, speaking my language. I feel like I'm such a mix of both of you. It's so funny.
Okay. Want to go have lunch with Amber and then forest bathe with me?
I mean, seriously, like I am like a take my shoes off and feel the ground person. I never miss a walk every single day, like blah, blah, blah skis to like, yeah, people fill my cup. And, you know, the moments I have with Ford when he's just laughing and I'm like, nothing else matters. That is so stupid. Look how happy my child is right now. Like, let me have this fuel me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and
so good.
it's hard to explain to someone who's in the thick of it that, like, just go for a walk. Stop saying I can't. You have to do something. You know, drink this whole bottle of water just tomorrow. Drink one every single day, because there are times in your journey where you're like, you literally can't see that, right? Nobody understands you. Everyone has more resources than you. Everyone has more family than you. Like, whatever the story is that you're telling yourself, there is a time where you can, like, start just the smallest little bit by bit. I think those things will give you enough strength to go on that 2-hour lunch date, to go on those 10,000 steps every single day, or whatever it is that you need to find for yourself. You just have to start and figure out what it is for you. And it gets easier every single time you prioritize yourself.
Absolutely. And I also think too, I mean, you brought up Ford, which, by the way, like at the end of every one of your episodes, it's just, oh my gosh, that giggle fills my cup. And I'm like, I haven't even met him in person. But it's also with our children, right? We can find the joy for ourselves, and we can do those self-care things that we need. But you can find the joy, like I had said, when Kai turned 3 and he was starting, you know, to sit and laugh. And I'm like, wow, that was such a small thing. And like I brought up earlier, those little wins, like all those little wins can help you find joy in that journey. It's, you know, now Kai is, knock on wood, been having so much seizure freedom for 2 years. Like, it seemed impossible years ago, but that's such a big win for us now. And every single one of those little things that add up, you're like, win, 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 tiny, tiny step. And it just helps you see so much clearer the joy that you're living every day when you take a step back and you're able to look, like, kind of overview of it all.
Yeah. It's that reservoir, right? That you're continuously like keeping over here and filling up, that you can dip into it when you need to.
Absolutely.
When you fall off and you fall off the wagon and you're back into the depths of despair, you have this reservoir of tools. You have this toolbox, and you know how to get back up. You know how to start over. And you know you can't look back. Pro tip, if your kids are screaming in the car, if you just turn on Ford's Laugh, I swear it makes everyone stop. Just try it next time they're flipping out. It works
I am going
every
to do
time.
that.
Okay, so
we are road tripping tomorrow, so I will let you know how this goes.
Please test it.
You're going to need it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's talk about your book. Congratulations. It just came out a couple days ago. It's called Finding Joy in the Journey. So I guess let's talk about it. First, I want to know how you both felt when you pressed publish, and I want to know what the gift is that you're offering people and what you hope they're getting from it.
Well, when we pressed publish, I think we probably stared at the button for a really long time. Like, is everything in this okay? If I press publish, is it really going to publish, or we'll delete the whole thing? Like, because we've never done this before. This is our first book. So we're very, very excited. And just, it feels like a piece of, this sounds so cheesy. It's a piece of our heart that we've put out there. But what's crazy is, we've talked about all of these different experiences that we've had raising these kids. And this is, again, like a decade later. Where we are at now, we are the product of figuring all of this out for a decade. And there are people that are so much further ahead. So part of it is like, do we have enough to share? But I think that everybody's experience is so different and so relevant that it's just like one more voice. We are just one more voice out there for someone to know, like, this community is actually very large. It is very inviting, and someone's going to find Effie. Someone's going to find Amber. Someone's going to find me. Someone's going to find all of these other resources out there. And it's just one more arm going out to people who are hurting. And we're all about developing communities. When we press publish, I was just elated that somebody's going to find this when they need it the most, because I didn't have this. And I know something out there existed, but I didn't know where to look. So right now we are giving this out to, just getting these links out to so many people we made it in an ebook form so that it's easy to read and easy to just take with you on your phone. It's not very long, so you can get through it in a day or two and just have as a great resource to carry with you, or to just email it to somebody that was maybe newly diagnosed and doesn't know where to start. So we did design it for all moms, but if we had to niche down, it would be the mom that just got through that diagnosis and doesn't know what's up or down anymore. She needs the most help right now, and that's what we're about.
And I do feel like when we hit that publish, First, I'm like so excited because we've worked on this forever. And like Chelsea said, it's not super long, but you know, we did this also working other jobs and having our children. So it'd be like late night in the Google Doc trying to do that and then going and making sure it's getting edited and all that stuff. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, who am I? Am I credible enough to do this? Like, is anybody going to even want this? I think anybody goes through that when you're putting, like Chelsea said, part of your heart out there. And then it's like, no, you're right. We have walked this and we have experienced this firsthand. And I think there's so much power in storytelling that you could hear 20 different stories and we could all have children with medical complexities, but you're going to take something different away from every single one of them. And that's what we do in the book. We share both about our kids' diagnosis from the beginning, what that looked like, how we felt. Then we kind of go into some more tangible, practical, like how to build a medical binder and what we put in ours so that you have this one-stop shop for all of your kids' information. And then we went into some parts of self-care and some other resources in the back that we have found that have been really helpful for us. So a little bit of everything, even though it's not super long, because also it can get overwhelming. So you want to make sure you're not like, word vomiting everything out there. And then a parent reads it and is like, I don't even know where to go with this. And then completely shut down, because that's the opposite of what we want. We want it to fill someone's cup.
Yeah. I thought that was very, very smart of you to make it 57 pages. Everybody needs this stuff in small doses, and things can be super overwhelming anyways with what you have to read while you're crying. It's hard to read while you're crying. So I think that was a really smart choice. It's also really pretty, and I love the pillars that you chose. I was hard nodding when I was skimming through it, and I think you made a lot of really excellent choices there.
Thank you.
100% on the storytelling. That is my love language. And also the amount of voices that we need to hear, right? And you've both sort of touched on this a couple times, where you're going to resonate with someone differently than someone else might. And that the more the merrier in this space, especially since we're all just like literally crawling on the floor for help in some way. So I think that the many different types of voices and the many different types of perspectives and different times in one's journey is really important. So I think you really hit a lot of buttons there. Good job. Speaking of the stories that you chose to tell, how did you decide which experiences did you want to include? And were either of them any more particularly difficult or ended up being more rewarding that you chose?
I think that for me specifically, I focused a lot on the beginning years with Kai just because that's where we were trying to, like Chelsea had said earlier, make sure that that mama who's in those trenches in the beginning feels like they are not alone. And for the moms who maybe are closer to where we are in our journey, reads it and thinks back, oh yeah, I felt that exact same way in that moment too. As you've been talking, I was thinking we've talked many times about like being in the trenches and how it can, like the trauma and how sadness can come in. And we're over here like, find the joy, blah, blah, blah. And I know that sometimes in the beginning, Chelsea and I have talked about this, like that mama might be hearing this and be like, this is so ridiculous. I cannot find joy right now. We're not always going to be these constant, like happy people. We have our times. Trust me. I mean, just a couple of days ago, like actually I think yesterday was a very, very hard day for me and with Kai. And so I just wanted to kind of give that side note. It's like, not like we're always these super happy, bubbly people who are living their best life with their diagnosed children. But in the stories that I chose with Kai were those really, really hard times because I wanted to make it impactful that like here we are now finding that joy, but there were those moments where, like you said, Chelsea was on your garage floor. And I talk a lot about when we battled epilepsy. I mean, Kai's seizures in the beginning in the first 2 years were awful. I mean, we were in the ER and admitted every other weekend, every other week. We were spending days on end with getting EEGs and trying different medications, and they were rough. I was not sleeping. Kai was just kind of not coherent. He was just tired all the time. I mean, the seizures were just wreaking havoc on his brain. And so I do share a lot about his journey with epilepsy in there just because it has been one of our most challenging diagnoses that he's gotten. But then I also share a lot about how as he's gotten older and with his cerebral palsy diagnosis, we're seeing small wins that we never really thought he would ever see as far as actually pushing himself in his wheelchair and a lot more like scooting around on the floor and motor planning. So I try to share a little bit of each side where it was really, really, really hard in the beginning. But then there's been other challenges that we've been able to overcome.
Yeah, totally. With Kenan, and I know both of you have said like your kids are living their best life and they're happy all the time. I can't say that entirely for Kenan, although she might think that is how she's living her life. And when you have a child on the spectrum, a lot of times you're dealing with anger at extreme levels constantly. And when we were writing this book, I would voice vent to Amber and be like, I don't know why we're writing a joy in the journey book because my life is a hell on earth right now. And there's no joy. This is so ironic that there's just no joy. I'm like forcing myself to find it. But that's the thing is life in general, like we are not promised a perfect life. There are going to be trials. There are going to be hardships and challenges. And it's a choice. And so finding joy in the journey isn't about perfection. It is about making the choice to focus on the good, to work on having a mindset that is looking for better solutions instead of dwelling on the negative. Because if you get in, I mean, we won't do it now, but if you want to get into the neuroscience of focusing on negative, you destroy yourself on the inside, from the inside out. And hi, I did that. I ended up with an autoimmune disease that I am still working through. And if you saw me 2 years ago, you'd be like, wow, you have the worst psoriasis I've ever seen in my life. Like head to toe, it looked like I had stepped out of a fire. It was so bad. And it was because of negative thoughts and beating myself up and not sleeping or taking care of myself. And a lot of that came out of that garage floor crying prayer that something had to change. So our book, we chose stories that we felt like might be the most relatable to other people, but you can never tell all of it. You're never going to know somebody's whole life or whole story, nor do you need to. But hopefully there's something in there that resonates with another mom who's picking this up that needs hope.
Yes. I mean, Ford's almost 9. And when I started this, there was like virtually nothing out except like it was kind of the beginning of when people started to like really hop on Instagram and start sharing about stuff. But I would have really welcomed voices like yours. And I feel like so often we think that there has to be like a disclaimer on positivity. And I just don't like that either. I think that the words toxic positivity, the pendulum swung so far that people feel like they have to like apologize for it or really upfront stuff. And I don't think that it negates skipping over the difficult things. I think we all know that's there, but I think people are still really hesitant to share that part of the journey and really understanding that it doesn't undermine anything else that's hard and is terrible and sad. I just wish that maybe... You know what? I just want more voices like this, I guess, because as a new parent, I wish I could have found something like that because I don't think I would have been like, these bitches, what are they talking about? They're happy. I want to punch myself in the face. Like I would have been like, hey, you know what? That's the kind of person I know I am inside. And that's the kind of person that makes me feel good. I wonder if that's true. And I think it would have really given me a better launch pad if I would have heard voices like that more often and without people apologizing for it, honestly, because I feel like you can't be happy around sad trauma unless you tell them why. And I just feel like maybe there's a little room for all of that to coexist just a little kinder. I don't know.
I completely...
Yeah, and everybody copes with everything so differently too.
Right.
I mean, I've watched so many people go through losses and I've not seen one person deal with it the same way. And so the negativity, the positivity, just admitting where we're at, being able to talk about how we are processing whatever it is we're going through. I think that maybe we should monitor our words a little bit so that maybe we're not dragging someone else down with us that's not in a position to be there. But I do think that we should be able to have these conversations. And it's podcasts like this where you get to hear so many perspectives. And we appreciate what you're doing because this has been a light in our life.
For sure. And I completely agree with that. I feel like it's funny. I've been going to therapy for a while, ever since pretty much since Kai was 1. And I talk about this with my therapist all the time because it's like, doesn't have to be this all or nothing. And it can, or. and or. You can have both. You can be happy and you can be sad, but that doesn't negate one or the other. So why do we always feel like we have to explain ourselves? I'm allowed to feel happy, and I don't have to say, well, I'm happy, but I'm also sad over here too. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it can all coexist, and there should be no reason for why we have to justify that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Amen. Okay. So tell people where they can find the book, all of your pages.
So you can find us at makinglemoncake.com. We are also making lemon cake on social media. So we're on YouTube, and we're also on our YouTube links are in the link tree, but the link tree will go away. I'll put the website up. So it'll all be very simple. And our book is on the website. We also have some other resources there and links to all of our other outlets. So you can join our newsletter. We call our community the Cake Pops. So you can get in the Cake Pop Club with us. Anybody who does purchase a book, we will give a discount code to Effie to share. So use code Once Upon a Jean for 20% off of your copy of Finding Joy in the Journey.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely go and support these girls and get this book. I promise you it's a breath of fresh air and you're going to love it. There's tools for parents. There's obviously the personal stories that we talked about. They talk a lot about, what they've learned, their vulnerability, their strength they've gained, the joy they've found. There's a lot of advice and obviously building a cake pop community. And also, have you guys heard of Mijo? Because it's the electronic version of the binder and it is free and it is phenomenal. And it's going to keep all the meds, all the doctors, all the IUPs, like literally everything in it. And you can share PDFs with different people who are helping you with your kids. And now it's being incorporated in lots of children's hospitals, EHRs.
That's the MEJO, right?
Yep.
I just recently came across that. I had not heard of it before.
Check out his episode on my show. And he'll give you a deep dive on it. But
perfect.
Super, super amazing resource. And you can have it on your phone at any time.
That's awesome.
I mean, you can upload like scans to it, like literally everything.
That is really cool.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I'm so grateful for both of you. Thank you for being such a bright light. Thanks for making this resource. I can feel your energy and your love, and I love it. And your kids are so lucky to have you. And so is this community. Just really thankful that it's out there. And congratulations on your book. Everybody go buy it. The links are in the show notes. And don't forget to follow them on Instagram and all of the places. Okay? Girls,
thank you so much.
Thanks for being my guest.
Thank you.
Yeah, we loved being here and having the time with you.
I hope you've been enjoying this podcast. If you like what you hear, please share this show with your people, and please make sure to rate and review it on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also head over to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to connect with me and stay updated on the show. If you're interested in sharing your story, or if you have anything you would like to contribute, please submit it to my website at effieparks.com. Thank you so much for listening to the show and for supporting me along the way. I appreciate y'all so much. I don't know what kind of day you're having, but if you need a little pick-me-up, Ford's got you.